What is going on, guys? Okay, we've got a problem. In an effort to make this thing the best I can't seem to figure out the power issues or the power. So here's the problem. We're doing some prototyping. We've got some schematics, some connections to make the regular RNS thumb switch work with the tablet without using Bluetooth. So I already did SoCal Rally on a prototype. It worked very well, but now what we're doing is we're looking to make it a little bit more compact and make it work a little better. So more on that, but that's not the problem. The problem is batteries. So the Kove Rally Pro, I need the equipment up here. I need that to be powered on even with the bike off. The reason being, for instance, the Rally Comp here has the tracking antenna and it needs 12 volt power being supplied to it for the unit to stay on. Now, I want to put a battery for the nav equipment specifically for, say, the Rally Comp and the tablet to at least be able to pull a little bit of power and stay on even with the bike being off. So the option is something like this, which is an EarthX. It's a 13-2 battery. I believe this is a 3-cell or 4-cell battery, probably 3-cell based on the voltage. 44 watt hours. Now this thing's tiny. The deal is that this thing has an onboard battery management system, which means you can charge it in 12 volt fashion and not damage the battery because there's a board keeping an eye on the individual cells. Lithium batteries are very, very susceptible to a couple of things, but three things really. Overcharging, over discharging, and also cell balancing. I think that cell balancing one is sometimes overlooked. If you've got 3 cells in here, you need to make sure all 3 of them are doing the work. If there's one cell that's being lazy, that could wreak havoc on the pack and even exploding thingies. But I like these batteries from EarthX. They're tiny. It's like one of those like no frills, like this is it. You know, if we look at this one, this battery versus say for instance the firepower, more or less equivalent, 12 volt, 4 amp hour, 48 watt hours, 13.2, 3.4 amp hours at 44 watt hours. Just look at the weight difference on these things and excuse the mess. So let's go ahead and zero this out. So with the hardware, this thing is at 532 grams. This is the EarthX battery with onboard BMS. This is the firepower battery. This was actually what came out of the Kove. Is 832 grams. Now, am I gonna notice the difference? No, but if I can use one of these guys that have more watt hours than one of these guys, those watt hours are very important. That's my reserve capacity. So something that a lot of people don't know about lithium batteries that's kind of misleading is that these things are rated in what they call PBEQ, so lead equivalent. The deal is that people will see, look, it's got more, it's the same capacity as a lead battery, and it's not. They have a difference in reserve capacity. That's the biggest thing. The reserve capacity on batteries like this typically is not the same as a good old-fashioned AGM battery. Now that's what I put in this one. I am using BMW parts on the Kove. I've got a BMW battery made by Yuasa in it, and obviously it gets the job done, but what I would like to have is maybe something a little bit lighter, but that also offers more reserve capacity for this kind of thing. So, I need your help. What do you guys know out there about a, say, 3-cell battery that can be put in line, that has an on and off switch, that has a BMS or battery management system, that can be balance charged, preferably using the same 2 terminals, and then power the units. The stuff on this thing isn't very, and yeah, on-off switch is a must. the power consumption on this stuff isn't very high, so it doesn't take a lot of reserve capacity to do it. But I would rather kill that battery. Say if I'm parked somewhere, I would rather have this system, the rally comp specifically, feeding from that battery than the other stuff. Now, there are solutions coming, but what I'm looking for is a solution from the bike, from Kove, basically, that I can install on my Kove to power other navigation equipment, not necessarily the rally comp. The rally comp does have a 12-volt battery backup system coming. There's different things in the works for it, but what I'm looking for and looking to design is something that will fit the Kove. So that's my current dilemma right now, is how do I do this? And I have been looking at circuits, I've been looking at batteries, I've been looking, I'm you know. So 3-cell 18650 seems to be the winner so far, something around the 33.5 amp hour or 3500 milliamps, somewhere in that range is what I'm thinking. We've got some, ignore the mess, I don't know if you guys can see it. We've got some prototyping being done right now, and yeah, but it's, I don't know. I've got this figured out. I know the wiring. Like, if I needed this wired up by tonight, I know exactly what I need to do. Run the battery to 12 volt, run the wires to 12 volt, run the charging for the Gamber-Johnson pad or cradle. This thing's awesome. You know, it's got the charging right there. I can run this to the 12 volt battery. With this, not a problem. My problem then becomes, it drains the main battery on the bike. The main battery on the bike has reserve capacity, but I rather take the load off of that. I rather have something separate, small, lightweight, compact. And it's just like a battery backup system. It's not meant to really be the way the bike runs all the time, but just more so something that will work. So I don't know, I figured I would crowdsource this. What do you guys think? I like doing the DIY stuff, as you guys can see my mess, but also we've got some M8 Pico connectors, we've got some stuff going on. This thing here, if you guys screenshotted that, you probably know what I'm trying to make, but it goes here to there and everywhere. But a lot of stuff going on there, and I've got this figured out. It took me about a half hour. Who am I kidding? It took me about 2 hours to figure out what I had previously done. That's what I get for not writing it down. I've prototyped some switches for Mason Klein. Previously, I did the smart thing. I wrote it all down, and of course I could find those schematics, I should say, that path. I was able to find that quickly, and then I'm kicking myself for not doing the same when I designed my own switches for this thing, or my own switch adapter. So I've got it pretty much figured out. I'm just 3D printing the case for that, but I'm still trying to figure out this battery thing. I obviously want to be able to walk away from the bike and not worry about the thing catching fire. That's always important, but you know, I don't know. What do you guys suggest? So leave your comments down below, maybe some links, maybe some something. You know, I don't know. I'm kind of at a crossroads. Do I just send it? You know, F2R makes a M8 Pico style connector junction box that you can bring power into, and then from there you can send that out to different things. Rally Moto Shop has an adapter to go from a rally comp to the F2R power box. They have the different connectors for thumb switches and all sorts of stuff, but I would rather, if there was a F2R box that had a battery backup, even if it was 1,000 milliamps or 1,500 milliamps or something along those lines, I think that would be really, really cool. The big thing is, and two, is you think about like clean power. You always, to navigation stuff, you always want to try and have clean power running to it. It means the bike can do whatever it wants. It could be spiking, there could be a loose ground connection, there could be something going on, but that battery and that system is right there to catch it and make sure you have clean power going to your actual bike or your actual navigation equipment. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. That's what I'm kind of stuck on. And I think that once that's done, once that system is available, it will have a ton of different uses because, again, there are sensitive electronics. Like even if it was a battery backup for the tablet, right? If this thing has 3,500 milliamps in it and it will run, or 5,000 milliamps, you know, however big the battery is, and it will run for a couple of hours on its own, well, having an additional 3,500 milliamps for charging it isn't going to hurt anybody. You know, having that little bit of extra power. Or worst case scenario, you put a very low powered LED light. Say your headlight goes out for some reason. Now you've got something that the bike has been charging. You now have that little bit extra. It's not about replacing something, it's about getting a little bit more reserve capacity. Now, in an ideal world, you would get a lithium battery, something like this. You would measure your battery box, you would maximize it, because even if you fill up, if this battery takes up the entirety of that box, like there's empty space in here. There is no empty space in here, or at least it doesn't feel like it. So look at the size difference. So if you could take this same thing, instead of saving 10 pounds, maybe I'm saving 4 pounds. But 4 pounds, higher cranking amps, a better general battery, especially having an onboard BMS. All right, I think we've got it. That's a good I would be okay with that, especially on most modern day bikes. So I don't know if a lot of guys know, but I do also work for BMW Motorcycles, and BMW Motorcycles has been putting lithium batteries in certain bike models. They started doing that in the adventure bikes and getting those batteries into it. They work great. The difference is that you've got lots of modules, you've got lots of a really big DME, you've got things that are constantly drawing power from it. Well, if you remember early on, I was talking about reserve capacity. Well, these things don't have the reserve capacity typically that a AGM battery will. So if there was nothing drawing, if you put 2 of these on the bench, side by side, no draw whatsoever, this is gonna go for years without it draining, versus an AGM battery, which, well, sitting there will actually drain and lose power. It's just the nature of batteries. Now, obviously, when there's no draw on them whatsoever, they'll lose it faster. But if you don't have reserve capacity, the same draw, it's like a 8-ounce cup of water versus a 12-ounce cup of water. It doesn't matter how how you slice it, what color the water is, I don't care. But if you've only got 8 ounces and you've only got 12 ounces, that's just how long it's gonna last. So that's the dilemma. That's what I'm trying to do. The switch, we're gonna go from, the switch here is gonna go to something to control this without using Bluetooth, which is important to me because, again, the more electronics, more things, I would rather have a wired connection to that. So I've already done it before. Like I said, I've already made it happen. I'm working on the prototype to make it a cleaner, repeatable setup with varying lengths of cables, because sometimes these tablets are further away from the tower or in different positions, blah, blah, blah. Or if you want to route the wiring just right, you know, there's that. So, I don't know. That's today's episode of Rally Works Garage. It's super short. I don't even know how long this one is. I got to get going to work. I got to do some cleaning. We've got some stuff coming on. I got to figure out what's going on with that wall. I'm not sure if I want to leave that white, and still need a sign. Found a bitchin' poster that we're going to put up as well. But yeah, I need a sign. Look at all the history over there. But anyway, yeah, so that's what's going on. Like, share, subscribe, leave those comments down below, leave those links. What do you guys think? What would be the solution to getting a kind of a battery backup for basic electronics on something like this? And again, we want to keep it small and compact. If we get a couple of hours of use out of it, 3, 4, 5 hours of use, that would be awesome. That is just enough to kind of keep or bridge a gap. If you start having electrical issues with the bike or something along those lines, you want to keep your navigation equipment safe. It's the same reason you have like a battery backup on a computer or something along those lines. So that's what I'm trying to do for this. I'm trying to design something or find something that will work. So I'll wait for your comments down below. I hope you guys enjoy the videos. We got a lot more coming very soon, and in short order. It's going to be time to throw these wheels on. This is going to be our dual sport setup for the Kove. and then we're gonna take a seat and we're gonna go through and we're gonna just set the whole bike up. So clickers, making sure all of that's done, making sure everything is properly torqued, making sure that the rear, the sag is set up and everything is dialed and ready to go. So that's probably my favorite part of the build, to be able to step back and go, there it is, perfection. So, all right, we'll see you guys for the next episode. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, leave your comments down below. I appreciate and read them religiously, making sure you guys participate. So thank you very much. We'll see you guys.